Hey there, coming in with something a little different today. Gonna do a unboxing and assembly of what is probably my favorite 40k kit I've had the chance to assemble so far. The Termagant Brood. I'm a big fan of the kit just because I like Tyranids. I'm not particularly opposed to monopose models, which is what this kit kind of falls under. And I just really like that it comes with all the options for 3 different weapon builds and a Ripper Swarm. I think it comes with 5 individual Rippers, so you only need 5 or 6. You only need 4 of them on the base, based on what I could tell. And what that means for you is that every 2 Termagant broods will actually yield enough Rippers for 3 Ripper Swarms. You'll only get 2 bases, but let's see what we got inside here. Actually going to assemble 2 of these at the same time, and then when we get caught up, I have a 3rd batch that is at the arm stage, and I'll add those to the mix for a total of 36 Termagants. These Games Workshop kits are just great. A lot of fun. Definitely the solid number 2 spot for me in the hobby. Playing, then assembling, then painting. My legions of gray plastic will attest to that. So, we can start out, take these sprues, and these are all of the secondary weapon options. You'll see your Ripper, you'll see we've got a bunch of spinefists here, arms that feed into the Devourers, as well as things like adrenal glands and toxin sacs, which are these little guys up here. These little armor plates are just bonus bits, the Tyranid equivalent of utility belts and little grenades and sidearms, stuff like that. So we'll set these to the side for now because everything we need for the first few steps is on these. So what I like to do is get everything arranged same order so that when I'm cycling through sprues I don't get lost. These sprues are going to have your bodies. It is a very simple kit. This can be a problem for some people that want to pose their models a little more uniquely. You're not going to get that option with Termagants. They are almost all going to have the same forward running posture, holding a gun. You can pick what angle the gun sits at, what angle their head points, but body and legs, it's 2 pieces for the model. The base slots in one way. Not going to get much other customization than that. And then these sprues also contain the base fleshborers for the Tyranid bugs and the heads. So I will prepare the second box. Some nice examples of color schemes there. Let's just get these right out here. The big upside to such simple kits is that you can assemble 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 of them at the same time. Super convenient when you need to build a lot of bugs in a short amount of time. That should be all of those. So we will set them back inside the box and store those for later. And these sprues, same thing. I like to go through, make sure they're all pointed the same direction. Just keeps things a little easier so that when you're going through hunting for numbers, like say we're assembling this 6 body, we can grab this 6 body and that 6 body and that 6 body. And we will go through all of them. Unlike a lot of other kits, there's not much distinction. You can kind of see that just looking down from the top on this. Each individual sprue doesn't need to be separated out. I'm not going to miss a head or something because I've mixed the sprues together. So we will set them nice and lined up. And then, checking our instructions, we're going to put all the 5 bodies with the 5 legs, and the 6 bodies with the 6 legs. Base them, assemble the heads. There are 4 variants. Glue the heads on. After the heads, we're going to pick which weapons we want. I'm going to assemble all 36 of these Tyranids with the Devourer, as we see here. And then after that, you have the step where you can add your customizations to it. Little armor plates, extra bits and bobs. This also shows you just recommendations where you can put your adrenal glands and your toxin sacs for your Gants. And then we have instructions on Ripper Swarms. Nice upside to those is that because you glue each individual piece directly to the base, you can sort of set it up however you want. All your rippers in a nice little line here, pointing the same direction. That's great. You want them all facing out in separate directions into the world. Have at. So, let's get snipping. We're going to flip that over. Big thing I like about the Tyranid kits is that you can grab each one of your sprues, take off the chunks you need, set them aside, and just move on to the next one. This is really nice for assembling models quickly. You just want to remember to keep these bits separated. It's not the end of the world if you don't, because there's only 2 variations. It's not like you're going to put yourself in too much trouble by getting them mixed up. So we'll go through. Grab each one. And again, I'm not taking too much care here to get a nice clean cut on the bits. I'll go through and trim those down with a razor blade shortly, just to get it a little more flush with the model so it's doesn't stand out quite so bad. Nice little dry fit there, kind of show you how they look. Super simple kit. Like I said, there's not a lot of room here to adjust it. It really just kind of fits together one way, especially once you get it trimmed down. And that's how it'll go into the base. Done with one, we'll set it to the side. And just continue through. One of the more tranquil parts of playing 40k And on kits like these that don't require a lot of thinking or a lot of posing, you know, you're assembling 36 of what are essentially carbon copies of each other. You don't have to think too hard. Sit down, zen out a little. Maybe turn on some tunes. And just clip. Got a little peg there to watch out for. Clip, clip, clip. This is a great time to throw something on in the background. I've got music here. You could toss on a podcast or a video, something on Netflix that you don't need to pay too much attention to. Because you do want to pay attention while you're clipping. You don't want to clip too far down and get the head, clip too far up and have a bunch to remove. Oops. And you could, even if you were so inclined, go through and only clip the 6s. Put all the 6 bodies into a pile. And all the 6 legs into a pile. And then all the 5 bodies into a pile, 5 legs into a pile. I do that with the guns just because there's only one gun. Only one gun that I'm assembling at a time. I haven't had a need so far to assemble split squads of Tyranids. So I typically assemble the whole box as just the one gun. So we'll get these guys here. Another one done. Scoot our little friend there off to the side. Another sprue done. Onto the pile. Oops. A little clumsy of me there. Oh, got that one already. Through. So that's all of our sprues. So we'll go through, count up each of our assembled bodies, and make sure we have enough for the number of kits we opened. Should assemble 12 and a Ripper Swarm. So we'll make sure we have 12. For each box. 8, 10, 12, and then we need another 12, 6, 8, 10, 12. Great. Sometimes I'll go through and miss one as I'm clipping them, just, you know, real easy to zone out, kind of chill. Now, what is probably one of the most tedious parts of the assembly of the models is trimming them down. We have 24 models, so 48 pieces, and we need to trim 2 burrs off of each one. Usually clipping. Sometimes it won't be too big a deal. You can probably see it here on this piece though. You just don't want burrs of plastic sticking off the raised surface, especially with how thin model paints are. Your primer will raise up, and then the paint will raise up, and then it'll stick out. So Games Workshop makes a tool for this. I use an X-Acto knife. Always be careful with this kind of stuff. Never cut towards yourself. I'll take and position it level with the surface I'm trimming. Use my left index finger to sort of guide it, give it a surface the back is resting on, and then use my thumb to very slowly push, so I'm not pushing with this hand. This hand's just holding the knife. And then we give it a pass, check it out, still a little there. Just do that until you've shaved enough of it off. That you're comfortable with the flatness of it. The discoloration caused from the stress to the plastic, as long as it's flat, is unimportant because your paint will cover it. So each of those feet has one, and then we have a little curved surface here on the inside of the arm with another burr. Don't shave too much, just enough. You can see I maybe overdid just a little bit on this piece. My stance on this has always been that it's better to go a little too far than not far enough. A piece sticking out will stand out more than a piece that dips in a little, especially because your shading paints and things like that will fill in the pool and help mask it a little. Top of the head is really important on these guys because keeping that as smooth as possible will give you more surface area for the head to stick to and help it stay on better. These little burrs, if I left this piece here, the glue, with how plastic glue works, would probably melt it down, probably be okay. If you don't use enough glue though, it could leave a little bump there, and then the entirety of the head isn't glued to the whole base here, it's glued to one small point, could break off easier. Easier to save the headache and just smooth it out just a bit. And then this piece across the base here, you don't have to be too precise with, because this part's going to be underneath the model. You're probably not going to paint underneath your models. Just give it a quick trim, or if you're in a big hurry, don't even worry about it. The recess in the base is deep enough that leaving the plastic burr, you can see here, isn't going to hurt anything. It's not going to stick out. There's not opportunity there for the model to sit unevenly because of those burrs. So we can go through and then just one at a time get these burrs off. Nice and easy. Use slow, gentle cuts. Because much like this plastic, this X-Acto knife will go right through your skin. I don't actually have any experience with the Games Workshop trimming tool. I can imagine that it might work a little better. But I couldn't say that for sure. That shaved down. So again, the goal here is just smoothness. The appearance doesn't matter. As long as it's nice and smooth, the paint will cover up any kind of blemishes. And there's a lot of models I've assembled that I've slipped and cut too much out, or didn't cut enough, left a burr, left bits, shaved down a hand a little too small. Most of that's not super noticeable at the tabletop level once you get the models painted. Obviously, if you're going for a golden demon paint job or something, you want the model to just be perfect. But for tabletop play, you know, they're your guys. Kind of get a little personalization in there. You want a guy that's missing a little bit off of his tail, go for it. Got little bite marks on an arm, have at. There, I'm not going to spend too much time on the bases here. Just because, like I showed you, they're going inside of a little slot on the base. Nobody's gonna look at that. And anybody that does, you know, anybody who matters isn't gonna care. There we go. Sometimes a couple extra passes will smooth things out. That done. We're in the home stretch now. Oops. There we go. Okay, we're down to the last two. We'll get these trimmed up, glued together, get to base them. Alright, safety first. Now, because of the nature of plastic glue, you're going to want to dry fit these together just to make sure. Any tiny burrs, the glue is going to melt down, everything like that. You just want to avoid, oops. So let's see if I got the right model there. I did not. You want to avoid gluing models together, parts that don't fit, anywhere you can. Just because that glue is going to warp the surface of whatever you put it on, breaking down the plastic. And that's the last thing you want, is to have a big smudge on the side of your model where it's all liquefied and rehardened because you didn't take the 2 seconds to test fit it. Get our glue reassembled here. And these legs are pretty easy. We got a nice easy glue surface. Don't use too much, just get a little bit on there. Stick them together. Just a little is fine. These guys are so small, and this is such a big surface area that it's very unlikely these pieces are going to come apart once you've given them just 5 or 6 seconds worth of curing in your hand. They can move to the side and sit. Oh. Had a lot there. So we'll put that in, take it out, try and use that to sort of spread the glue a little. Oh. Want to make sure we get that out of there. A little bit of debris. Any little bit like that inside what's supposed to be a flat surface could cause it to stick out a little. And we don't want that. You don't want your legs poking out at the wrong angle. 1, because it kind of stands out, and 2, because it just makes the whole connection a little weaker. And with something like your 40K models, you want to make sure that when they're assembled, you know, they're really assembled. Oop, what have I got going on here? There we go. He's a little bit warped. Let's make sure I got everything off of here. Yep. Yeah, that plastic stringiness probably doesn't show up on the camera, but you'll get little like spider webs that come off pulling like that. Really just something you want to avoid. So we'll set him down. Move on to our next little lad. Do try to do this in a ventilated area as well. You know, huffing glue is probably not good for you. The fact that testers has to distinguish between non-toxic and regular tells me that regular plastic glue probably has some element of toxicity to it. Ooh, got a little glue on my thumb. You can kind of see there on the thigh that I got a little glue. Hopefully not too much. It shouldn't ruin the smoothness of that little armor plate. Let's get some focus. There we go. But a big issue you can have is if you have too much glue on your finger, go to press the model down, and you press in too much glue and it liquefies the plastic, you'll have a big thumbprint melted into your model, which can be covered up with paint and everything like that, but it's usually easier to just not deal with it. I hold them a little upside down here just to try and get the glue to pool in that inside corner. I'd rather it pool there than go the other way and pool across the bottom of the Tyranid, make them look like they're kind of melting already. But there, we're down to our last couple here, and then we'll start on our heads. Oh, what am I saying? We'll base them and then we'll start on the heads. Okay. There's all 24. We'll cap our glue for a minute. All 24 of our guys. Assembling this mini at once, nice convenient part of that is that this guy should be dry enough to handle the stresses of being based. So we'll take our bases Games Workshop has given us in these nice bags. We have two larger bases. These are what we're going to put our Ripper Swarms on. They're going to go to the side for now. And before we fire this up, always good to just give your bases a quick little count, because you don't want to not have enough. Get 6. $12. 18, 3, 6, makes 24. Oh, guess my bottom row is a little out of view there. But we have 24 bases here, ready to go. So I'm sure there are better techniques to do this. I take one Tyranid, I put a little glue along one side of the base. Use the tip of the glue to kind of spread it out there. And then these bases you can see have a slot to them. Just get one side in snug across the back. Tip the other one in, and you can use your finger to level it in. And you want that base to sit flush with the bottom of the base, so that later when you paint it and when you base the models, you don't have a pit. Set him to the side. You'll notice that the cut in the bases is offset. I don't pay a lot of attention to it, but the groove that your Tyranid runs on is also offset, so you want to try to match that so that when the rail is on the right foot, you line the base up so that the offset is to the same side as the offset of everything. So when your right foot is on the rail, your offset is to the right of the Tyranid. You want the offset on the base to be the same. Help center your model a little better. Let's see if I even did that with this guy. Oh, I did accidentally. See, he's on the left foot, so he's offset to the left. Did the base to the left. And it's not the end of the world if you don't do that. It just helps keep your models a little nicer, and then especially when you're playing them on the tabletop, it makes them really fit that carpet of living things rushing towards you appearance. Sometimes you'll see that the bases don't have all the plastic cleared out of the middle. You can normally just knock this out of the way with a finger. I didn't get any in this batch. If you have any particularly rough ones, your X-Acto knife will cut through them. Just be very careful. Go down the sides of it. Knock the plastic out. So let's get our guy with the glue. Ooh, I need him a little more forward. And we're just gonna push. Get him flat. You'll see on this guy, I went a little too deep. You can always get to the bottom there. Push back out just to get flush. There we go. Let him have the glue. Offset on the left, base on the left, and some of them with the little bits and everything that are inside of it, you can just knock out of the way with the base of the Tyranid. This step's pretty quick. It just takes a minute to get the base lined up, pushed in there. Don't be afraid to just go all the way with the base and use that to guide your way in. It's been my experience that the base is one of the more forgiving points to have. Too much glue or a little meltiness, because you can always just cover it up with grass or rocks later. So we're on left, offset to the left. Oh. So this one here, you can see it's got another little line there of the plastic bits, but that's okay. We'll just crush them out of the way. Oops. You do want to avoid, since these have only been drying for a little bit, don't put pressure on the side that you've glued in. Like this guy, you can kind of see that's the leg bit that attached. Don't put pressure on here. Especially from the side like that, we'll just smush his arms off. Let's go. There we go. Just delicately get in there, line it up as best you can. Just how I'm sitting here. There we go. Get him in there. A little more. There. There we go. Come on now. Get in there. Got just a little glue on my fingers there. Just wait for that to dry. There we go. Got our 24 guys assembled. Pile of Tyranids. So, they're good. However, we need to set them to the side for now. Clean up all of our little sprue bits. And now, according to our instructions, we've gone through step 1, 1A, 1B. We're going to do step 1C, where we have the option of interchangeable heads. But each kit does only come with 12 heads, so we're not going to be able to fit each Tyranid with Screamy Mouth number 4 with optional tongue. We're just going to have 3 models that have that for each kit. So, let's get the cap back on our glue. Let's get our sprues back. Trusty sprue clippers. And with the heads, each one is numbered. They're a group, so 4. And these ones you kind of want to pay a little more detail to. The closer you can get it to the head, the better off you are. These pieces are so small that getting in there and trimming on them has the potential to harm it a lot more. So the closer you can get it, the gentler you can be when you're trimming it, the better. So just get in there and try and get as close as you can to the curve of the model. Match that groove just best as you can. You kind of have to find a good center ground between clipping quickly and clipping cleanly. And just keep the heads together. Again, not a huge deal if they get mixed up. There are 4 variants, so it takes you a little longer to sort of pick the different heads out from the pile. Keeping them easier does save you a couple minutes of sorting in the long run. That being said, you can usually tell just looking at the two halves if they're going to fit. Try to fit them together real quick. You know, your screamy head's not going to fit together with the non-screamy mouth. Well, the screamy head here won't really fit together with the non-screamy mouth. You'll be able to tell right away, hey, that doesn't look right. I do like to try and keep a hold of the bits, especially these smaller ones as I'm clipping. You don't hold it when you're clipping. The bit has a tendency to just go flying. Falls right out, lands on the table, bounces around. Just the worst. So we'll take that. Put it in our sprue pile. Keep at it. Just using the absolute tippy tip of your sprue cutters can really help here too, with just keeping it super trim. We're closing in. Just 2 more left. Another 8 heads. Alright, last one. All done. So we'll set that to the side. Now this bit is just a little tedious. But that's okay. Get out a trusty X-Acto knife. Each head you're just going to take with the gentlest cuts. Flatten that plastic down a little. Just as delicate as you can. Put that in there, get the little back of the head. Get it smooth, and then just regroup it. Just can't be too delicate with small pieces like these. It's not the end of the world if you slip and cut a big chunk of jaw out or lose a little out of the back of a head, because especially with something like Tyranids, it's super easy to just explain it away. You know, living weapons are gonna have battle scars. There we go. His jaw is a little thinner, but unless somebody's measuring it, it's probably going to be hard to tell. This is head number 12. We're halfway there. Whoops. Something you gotta look out for. Drop pieces and they yard bowling their way across your desk. Just separate them back out again. That quick little finger brush you can do there at the end will knock away all the excess plastic and kind of lets you feel just how smooth you've gotten the piece, which can tell you if you need to shave a little more off or anything like that. Your fingers are really good at detecting tiny, tiny bumps. So it should give you a fairly good idea of how smooth it will be, because it's hard to tell with all the discoloration from the stress of trimming it. That's fairly smooth. I do have a little notch taken out of it at the edge here, but some primer will mostly clear that up. Alright. Just finishing up on these bits. There's our 24 heads. Nice and together. Assemble our X-Acto knife. Get as much of these little bits of chaff together. And swept off. Now we'll uncap our glue. And the heads are even simpler than the body. Get a little bit of glue on there. Just a little bit will do it. I like to hit the spot where the pegs come together. Don't squeeze too hard because you don't want to squeeze too much glue out of there. Fits together. Keep at it. I like the spots where the pegs hit just because there's a little more surface area in... Oops. A little more surface area and two hemispheres fitting together than there are just two bits of flat plastic. Put that together. Let me get that head picked up before I lose it. Unfortunately, common occurrence. But that's okay. Just a little bit will do. Smushing it together, even as light as we do it, will help force the glue to sort of spread. Maybe give a little extra attention to the bottom jaws on the guys with open mouths. Aside from that, quick and easy. Don't need too much glue. Like every other gluing step, you really want to be careful to not get it on your fingers, because on a part as small as these heads, even just a little bit of pressure will cause a big old thumbprint, fingerprint, and it becomes super obvious. Not that you want a thumbprint on any of your models, but it can stand out on something as small as one of these Tyranid heads. Yeah, you can see I had a little on my thumb. The tippity top of that guy there now has an ugly spot. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, though. These heads go together quick. Should cure quickly enough. We're not going to be putting a lot of pressure on them to assemble them, so in an ideal world, you would assemble all these pieces separate. You do your bodies and let them cure, and then do the bases and let them cure for at least a few hours. But I personally can't think of anyone that wants to sit down and assemble one step of a model and then put it off to the side for 3 hours and do something else and come back 3 hours later and assemble one more step. Most people either like building the models, so it's something they want to do for a few hours, chain it together, or they can't stand it. It's the worst part of the game for them, so they want to get it all done as quick as they can. Avoid dragging it out. Oops. Got a little on my finger, but that's okay, because we're not using that finger to assemble. There's our last head. So, we now have a nice pile of Tyranid heads for our Termagants. And now we just need Termagant bodies. So we're going to take our head, put just a little dab of glue in there, rest it on the body, and just let it go. Like we mentioned at the start of the video, this is one of the few steps where you have any kind of options. It's not going to be a huge deal for most people, but you can set your guys up to be looking around, looking to the side a little. Just helps give a little bit of variation in your sea of little dudes that all look the same. There we go. Let's get another one looking off to the side. Get just a little closer to him here. Oops. Really get that glue spread around in there. Slowly but surely. Oops. We're not gluing the bottoms of the bases to anything. Not yet. So there we go. Put our glue back up because we are to another cutting step. And now that we're caught up, I have my other batch of half-finished gaunts that are going to join the party. So, if we consult our guide, finished putting on the heads, so it's arm time. However, we're not using the fleshborers, which is the gun from the front. We're going to be using the Devourers. So, we need Devourer 1, Devourer 2. And these are all the same part. They're also on these little sprues. These guys up at the top with their little arm that comes with them to feed into the Devourer itself. So let's go ahead and grab our other set. And because we set it to the side, we have a third set of sprues. So we should all want them all facing the same direction. We'll just line our ripper up across all of them. So we're lined up. So we're just going to go through and snip out each devourer and put it in a pile, and each devourer arm and put it in a pile. And we'll come back for the rippers later. So each arm, and you can even go through and start on the devourers themselves. Just cut as close to that ball joint as we can. And the butt of the gun. And we're done with that one. And we'll just keep going. That one wasn't holding on by too much. Give it a clip, drop it into your palm, throw it in the pile. Oops. A little bit of a biomass spill there. Oops. So I had a little bit of a slip up there that I'll have to correct. You can see the tip there. I got in a little too much of a hurry. And, oh, if we can get some focus, that'd be great. You can see I chewed the tip of it up a little. We'll knock that off. Luckily, this just plugs into the side of the gun, and the joint will be a little weak, but that's okay. We'll at least pretend to keep things a little organized here. There we go. Oops. Let's get our light back on there. So we have two piles now of Devourers. And the arm that supplies them. And those are going to fit into the right arm socket of the Tyranid. That bit will go right there. And you can kind of see how that's going to line up with the front of them. So, first things first, it's trimming time. So, the tips I'm not going to worry about as much because these are fine enough that the plastic glue should break them down and form them. This little bit here on the side is worth just a tiny touch-up. So we'll go through, trim a bit on the shoulder, and just take a quick peek at it. If it looks like it's going to be too much for what little amount of glue we're using, feel free to trim down the ball joints. I'm sure I have one or two in here. Let's see if I can find one that could really benefit from it. maybe we got some good cuts in. Just give it a quick gander. Oops. Okay. Just a little here for posture's sake. There we go. Bring things a little more into the center. That one looked pretty good. There we go. Get a quick clean up. Move on to the Devourers. This time we're going to be making 2 trims. There's a bit you can see right here. Across the tip of the arm. And then another piece on the butt of the gun. So we just flatten that. Give that a quick smoothing, and we're good to go. Ooh, yeah, there's a particularly egregious one. That's the kind of thing you don't want sticking out of your model. Okay, last little bit. We'll get that trimmed. Get that smoothed. Put it on the pile. We'll do another cleanup. Let's put our X-Acto away first. Okay, so we're going to switch sides because the Devourer goes into the right-hand arm socket. And we are facing the Termagants, which means it's on our left. So each one we're going to take. Let's get our glue out. Yeah, we got plenty. I'm gonna put a little dollop in each socket. First one to go in is the Devourer. Oh, we need a little in the socket on the gun as well. Then we put the arm in, hold that in with one finger, hold the other one with the other, and then just use this time to kind of line it all up. And there you go. Now this is in there very loosely. Any kind of pressure will move it out of place. But it's good enough to sit down and cure. And we're just going to repeat this process another 33 times. You really want to make sure to get the joint there in the Devourer so that it looks alright. I've noticed that there are some angles you can assemble these at where it doesn't fit in all the way and sits too far to the side of the gun, like this, and can really stand out. You really want it to be in there. Let's get both our pieces in the sockets in the arm. Fix that head while we're here. Here's our piece that has the trimmed bit on the socket that leads into the Devourer. And we'll just do one of these, and it looks just fine. Oh, looks better when it's in the socket. The other real secret upside to these little dudes is that this tail is just perfect for moving the models. There's another. Oops. We'll really just hit our stride here. Glue, glue, glue. Assemble. You'll get a feel for where you want the arms to be before you put them together and fuse the sockets. Whoa. We do want to try and avoid dropping them. Luckily, these models are small, so there's not a lot of heft to them, so dropping them isn't the immediate disassembly process that it is with larger models. Oops. There we go. Good example. I got a little too much glue in there. Got some on my thumb. And that shoulder, you can see that doesn't come off. That is now textured like that. With that little thumbprint there. Just gotta be a little more careful. Oops. Let go just a little too early. I know it seems like I'm skipping a guy. I'm just trying to keep a little space here. Helps me keep track of the models a little easier. Ooh, there we go. Little dab there. Quickly assembling. Oops. Make sure, nice and resilient. We're almost there. Might be short a gun or two. Have to go back through. It's entirely possible I just completely skipped over one. Missed a sprue. All kinds of stuff. There we go. Missing 3 Devourers, but only 3 Devourers. Which means I left an entire slew of Devourers on a sprue somewhere. So let's go ahead and use our sprues that are lined up. You can see them right there. Now, what I did here, I don't know. Oh, ran up the side of them and then just was done. So let's get those out. We'll do some quick sequence breaking here. There we go. Last one. There we go. Got a pretty big slew of Gants together. Now, if we check our instructions, our last couple steps, we can put on extra bits, which I'm not going to do at the moment. These are up to you. They're random. They're all these little guys. The important ones really here are going to be this piece, which is a toxin sac on the arms, the little dangly arm on the side there, and the adrenal glands, which rests on the back. We are, however, going to assemble some rippers. 5 is a little clustered, so what I like to do and what I've seen other people do is just run 4 rippers on a base. Helps keep them separate enough so that you can paint them a little easier. I've already assembled the ripper from the 3rd batch, the half-assembled batch that we finished up. So we just have 2 bases. So what we can do here is go through, pick rippers off until we have about 8. And you can, this piece on the top of the ripper here is a little rough to get to with sprue cutters. You can pull down a little. You don't want to pull too hard because you don't want to physically rip the plastic away, but you can bend a little just to give you a little bit better access at that plastic on the top. So there's 4. That's enough for our first ripper. Oops. And there we go. There's 8. You can see I've still got another 4 rippers here. Let me see if, in fact, okay. Just had to check and make sure. I did already assemble the ripper from the 3rd unfinished group. That was with the extra rippers from sprues from the first 60 of these I assembled. So we're done there. You have extra rippers. If you want to pick up an extra 40mm base somewhere, you can field 1 more. Now, trimming these rippers, we're going to want the little bit off the top. Most of the time you can get a pretty decent cut, but there is a little bit of plastic that forms up there. So we'll just smooth that down. And then this is actually really important for the rippers. You can see there's that little bit of plastic on the base. You want this to be as smooth as possible because that's the only point of contact this model is going to have with the base. And if you've got a tiny lump of plastic there that the glue can't melt down fully and make flush with the rest of it, that's going to be... that lighter spot is going to be the only point of contact your ripper has with the base, which means that the first time anything touches the top of it during transport or something like that, it's going to pop right off. So you can take that, just get it a couple passes to make it nice and smooth. Top of the head. Clear some plastic off our X-Acto knife. X-Acto knife away. We'll get our bases back into the picture. And with these guys, you can do about 3 of them right next to each other before they get too cluttered. And then you normally do like a third one in there. Maybe stagger them 1, 2, 1, 2. I'll show you what that looks like with one. So just get a little glue on the base. Use the back of the tail there to hold him against the base. And I can even feel this one has a, I don't know if you can see this or not. During the casting, the side of the base there, that formed a little lip. So we're going to have to do a little quick surgery. Get that formed how it should be. Just give it a little bit of glue to make up for the bit that dried. There we go. You'll be able to tell when you put it on there because it'll feel like it goes on really flush, and the glue almost makes like an airtight seal. Fits on there nicely. So we keep going. Get that staggered pattern. Don't be too forceful, but you do want to be forceful enough to... I keep calling it a seal. It's probably just the glue liquefying enough of the plastic to sit flush with the base of the model. There's enough space you can see where you could fit another ripper or two if you felt so inclined to really fill up on rippers. I just want to make sure I have enough room to paint these guys. And because of the way they're modeled, you can always add more later. Go. Let's see if those hold. So we've got one here. A little bit more of an aggressive forward posture for the rippers. A little more aggressive forward posture. And then here we have a little more balanced center of the base. Good profile on them. They line up pretty nicely from the side. And again, more room there. You can kind of see a spot where you could put a fifth one if you wanted to fill the base up a little more. So there we have it. Let's grab one of our guys that's closer to dried. I have Termagant with Devourer. Again, one of my favorite kits just because it's one of the cheapest infantry kits. You make 12 infantry units, which makes sense because it's a horde army. It's not like something like Custodes where you're paying more for the infantry kit because the models are a little larger, stuff like that. So you're getting 12 models. You're getting the entire suite of all 3 weapon options. You get the rippers to make a ripper base per kit, per 12. And then adrenal glands and toxin sacs for each of your models, should you choose to take them. Just a lot of content in one package. Nothing but great things to say about it. I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't like, again, that they're monopose. You can see we did a little movement. The guns are all positioned a little differently, but aside from our guys that maybe have a little bit of a head angle to them, we're not getting a lot of variety out of them, which in the case of Tyranids works, fits in. They're not supposed to be unique. These are supposed to be swarmy copies of the Termagant base model. So, thanks for joining today. Hopefully this was as peaceful for you as it was for me. And thanks for checking us out. We'll see you in the next one.